This is your brain. This is your brain in space. Any questions?
Okay, if you are like me, you probably have a lot of questions. Because while your brain in space may not be scrambled or fried, it does experience change. So what does floating in zero gravity actually do to astronauts' brains? And how do we support brain health on future long-haul missions to Mars? Hi, I'm Dr. Vanessa Hill, and this is Space for Humans. When we imagine future missions to Mars, we're talking about a one-way trip of about 7 to 10 months. Now that is a long-haul flight. Our intrepid travelers are going to need a lot more than some peanuts and a movie. So how do we keep these future astronauts safe, healthy, and comfortable? First, we have to understand the risks of such an incredible journey to human bodies and minds. Dr. Stribling covered the physical impacts like bone loss and muscle deterioration in his video on astronaut exercise programs. Check out that video to learn more. But what about the neurological impacts? What happens to our brains in space? Over the course of that months-long journey to Mars, your brain would quite literally reshape itself. MRI studies of astronauts have confirmed structural changes in the brain after long missions. Remember, that's one of the really cool things about brains. They're incredibly plastic, which means they can grow and change based on our actions and environment. So whether you want to be an artist or engineer, your brain is malleable to learn all kinds of skills. On a long trip to Mars, microgravity would cause your brain to actually shift position upward and adjust its neural connections. That's right, your brain both moves around and does a bit of rewiring. And that can have some serious impacts on you, from slower reaction times to dizziness and impaired spatial orientation. You might need more focus and time to do simple routine tasks. You might also experience vision problems. You see, without gravity, fluids in your body shift toward the head, increasing pressure on the skull. This increased intracranial pressure can cause flattening or swelling of the eyeballs, leading to fuzzy or blurry vision, which I find terrifying. It's called spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS, and according to research, it impacts about 70% of long-duration astronauts. And that's a big problem that NASA is working to solve before any missions to Mars. Aside from your eyeballs kind of flattening like a pancake, the good news is that the human body is incredibly flexible and resilient. Many of the changes your brain undergoes in space are adaptive, meaning that they help you function better in a weightless environment. An astronaut's brain shows changes in both white matter connectivity and shifts in grey matter volume in different regions of the brain, improving spatial awareness and balance in a world that is permanently topsy-turvy. Think of it like your brain's own antidote to motion sickness. The other major changes happen inside the vestibular system. The vestibular system is located in your inner ear, and it helps you stay upright, balanced, and coordinated. Astronauts experience what's called sensory reweighting, through which the brain learns to rely less on gravity-sensing vestibular inputs and more on visual and tactile cues. In other words, what you see and touch become more important when there's almost zero gravity to sense. Fun fact, astronauts aren't the only ones who show changes in this region. Studies show the vestibular systems of professional ballet dancers are different from the average person's. Think about it. When you spin around and around, don't you get dizzy? Now picture a ballerina on stage in a pirouette that goes on and on, finally ending in a perfect renversé. That takes some incredible balance. For ballet dancers, years of rigorous training cause changes in the inner ear that reduces sensitivity to spinning, so they can perform Swan Lake without falling ill or falling over. Okay, back to our astronaut friends. Since they're spinning and swimming and floating through a world with no clear up or down, the inner ear's vestibular system takes a back seat and stops sensing head tilt normally. And that's a good thing, because it keeps astronauts from feeling constantly dizzy. The problem happens when astronauts snap back to reality. And look, there comes gravity. On their return to Earth, the astronauts report experiencing trouble balancing, vertigo, and lightheadedness, and it can take days for their nervous system to readapt. You might have experienced this yourself. Have you ever gone on a boat or carnival ride, and when it came time to step back onto solid ground, suddenly everything felt wobbly? Sailors call it sea legs. So I guess we could call it space legs? Of course, the gravity in Mars is significantly less than that on Earth, about 62% less. So our Martian explorers might adapt faster when they land on the red planet. So how can we make space for the wonders of adaptation while also protecting astronauts' brains? Because hey, the explorers who land on Mars after 10 months can't simply pop back to Earth for a quick checkup. That's why we have to learn everything we can before takeoff. And that's exactly what space agencies like NASA are doing, researching and developing countermeasures to support astronauts' brains on long-duration flights. These include things like cognitive training and nutritional supplements, like omega-3 fatty acids and probiotics. Because Hippocrates was maybe onto something when he said that all disease begins in the gut. We're learning more and more about how a healthy gut supports a healthy brain. But there's one more countermeasure in development I want to share with you. Lower body negative pressure devices, or LBNPs. Space legs meet space pants. To use these devices, astronauts are sealed into a chamber or suit from the waist down that uses a vacuum pump to create negative pressure. That pressure mimics the effects of gravity, pulling fluids down towards the legs. Remember how many issues were caused by that microgravity fluid redistribution? Giving astronauts a way to combat that can help protect not only brain and eye health, but cardiovascular health too. So yes, your brain in space is different, but that's not just a bug, it's a feature. Adaptability is what makes humans such powerful explorers. Whether it's learning to walk again on Earth, adjusting to the dizzying world of microgravity, or designing super scientific space pants to support astronaut health, we're constantly evolving to meet the challenge. Thanks for watching Space for Humans. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more stories on how space is reshaping life here on Earth and out there in the stars. I'm Dr. Vanessa Hill, and if you'd like to learn more about sleep here on Earth, please check out my videos on my channel BrainCraft.